recording this actually right now, just reminded myself to record it. And so that way, if you have somebody who missed the training or you can't make a training, we're going to do everything we can to make sure that these are available to you, that, you know, all of our conversations are something that you can, you know, reference back to. So what we'll do is once this is done, we'll post this meeting to our Facebook and our YouTube pages, or maybe just a link in Facebook to our YouTube, but we'll upload it so that you have access to it. So with winter being hitting us here in full swing, and all of the cold weather and all that stuff in a line. So CSNOW is housed by the Align team here in Cheyenne. And the Align team is a consulting firm that actually manages a number of different grants, and CSBG being one of them. But also we have early childhood development grants. We have STARS. We do some Head Start stuff. And then we have LIEAP, which is the Low Income Energy Assistance Program. And I have the pleasure of working with Aaron Roybal, who is the director of LIEAP. And he agreed to come on today and just share with us about LIEAP, a little bit of the history and what it is that LIEAP does, and just walk you through how to help clients with that, and then answer any of your questions that you have. And so I'm going to turn it over to Aaron here in just a second, but make sure that if you have not already muted your microphone, I'm going to go through and mute you so that Aaron has the floor. Aaron, welcome. Thank you for being here and sharing with us.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate you guys having me today. I am going to do a slideshow and do a high-level sort of overview of what LIEAP is and what we're doing over here. So everyone's in Wyoming, right, Eric? Okay, cool. And everyone can hear me, I'm hoping. I have a new headset. We're working with a new headset system here at Align. So
yep, we got your 5x5.
It's not working. Okay, excellent. All right, so I'm going to do a high-level overview, like I said, and then I want to answer any questions you guys have. I know a lot of questions come up about a lot of different things for LIEAP, and I'm still learning. I don't know if you'll ever know everything there is to know about a program like LIEAP. Something new comes up every day, it seems like. So it keeps it interesting, it keeps it fun. So with that said, can I go ahead and share my screen? Looks like you gave me permissions.
Say, hang on, Aaron. I'm sorry. I should have already done that.
No, I think I have it.
Yeah. Okay. There you go.
All Perfect. Right. Let me see if I can maneuver some of this around. All right. So Align, like Eric said, fulfills the LIEAP contract for the state of Wyoming. And this is, I believe, our 6th or 7th year that we've had this contract. So this is my 2nd season. I started last season learning the ropes of LIEAP, and it's been interesting, and I've really enjoyed it. So of course, COVID hit over this, spring, which has made it even more interesting. With the CARES Act, LIEAP received additional funding for COVID relief. So we've been fulfilling that through the summer. Normally the season runs for a limited time, but this past time with COVID, we just kept going and kept it rolling all summer. So it's made it interesting trying to update our systems like we do it yearly. We weren't able to do that until the last minute, which kind of put us, I guess, a little bit behind in terms of processing applications. So it's been a little nuts over here. And I'm not sure how we're going to handle questions. We'll probably do that at the end. So make sure you write them down and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, at the end when you're done with your presentation, we'll get to it.
Excellent. Okay. So,
and in the meantime, just before you get jumping in there, you can put those in the chat and we can go through those questions too. So if you think of a question while he's presenting, feel free to put that in the chat, and then we can answer those questions at the end.
Perfect. So in Wyoming, we call the program LIEAP. The federal government, the actual program's LIEAP. We just leave out the home part because it's kind of implied. But you'll hear different pronunciations of the program. Colorado's LEAP. So LIEAP is what we use, and it's a federally funded program. The state of Wyoming receives just about a little over 8 million, generally around that area per season. And the reservation in Wyoming has their own tribal funding. So that's handled by the tribe. So that's separate from what we do for the rest of the state. So our priority here is for elderly, so 60 plus, disabled, or those with children that are 5 and younger. So like I was saying, our season generally begins at a normal season, it begins in October, so October 1st, and we run through May 31st. So here at Align, we handle all the application processing, and we have our phone center here. So right now we have, we hire temporary workers from Express Pros, and they come in and we train them how everything works, all of our systems, everything that we use is digital. So it comes through and we digitally process all the applications, which is really nice because I know when we first started here at Align, everything was paper. So there were stacks and stacks of applications around the entire office, which I've heard multiple stories about, which sounds pretty insane. So we've made a lot of progress in terms of moving to the digital world with the applications, which has been huge for us. So applicants, they can turn their applications into our office a lot of different ways. So you can see here, web, email. We have an online application. There's a mobile app that we've been using for the last couple of seasons now that I think is really cool, and we like to push that more and more. When you just download the app and you can essentially just scan the documents and they go straight into our system. So it's pretty nice, but we also obviously accept them here at our office in our lobby. And then if you mail them in, we scan all those in. So it's just an additional step. So moving to digital, excuse me, with the app and all that makes it a lot easier and quicker on our side. So there's 2 different types of payments for different fuels. So when I say the season starts October 1st, we start processing applications October 1st, and we can make payments for non-regulated fuels beginning October 1st, which would be propane, wood pellets, and coal. And then beginning November 1st is the regulated fuel, so natural gas and electricity. So if the bill date on your invoice is in November, that's the ones we can start paying once an applicant is approved. So I want to talk about the kind of the qualification. How does a person qualify for LIEAP? And this is a high level overview of our process. And like I said, you can fill out the application in multiple ways. So that's where everything starts. And you can see our website here. It's liapyo.org. And the homepage there has a video of Align's president, and she talks about how to apply for LIEAP, how to use the online application, which is all right there on the homepage. We recently revamped the website, so I think it's a lot easier to get around, a lot easier to understand. There's a lot of FAQs on there, and this graphics on there. So we're continuously updating this information because there's a lot to it. And if you're new to the process, it can be a little confusing. So one of the first things I did when I started was trying to go through and simplify how an applicant can understand this a little bit better. So this is one of the graphics we came up with this past summer. And you can see once we have your application, it starts down our process, our digital process. And we like to call it a waterfall. So it goes through the steps and it just continuously falls down to the next step. So what we do once we have your application, we'll send you a letter in the mail. So everything that we send is in the mail, letting you know we have your application. And then once we process your application, we'll send you a letter letting you know the status. So it's either pended, denied, or approved. And if it's pended, we send you in your letter the information that it's pended for. We let you know what else you need, what other documents are needed. And a lot of times if we have those documents, like if the form needs filled out, we'll include that form and mail it back with that penned letter. So you can fill it out, send it back. So again, we're trying to simplify as much as we can this process. I think there's always room for improvement. So if you guys have suggestions, I know you probably know a lot of LIEAP clients potentially. If they have, or you've seen process improvements, definitely let me know, and we're trying to make this better as we go. So one thing I want to touch on, and down here at the bottom, you can see, so once you're approved, the application is a dual application, it's a LIEAP application. So you're applying for LIEAP as well as weatherization assistance when you turn in that application. So if you're approved for LIEAP, you're automatically approved for the weatherization assistance program, which we'll talk about a little bit more here at the end. So again, if you go to the website, these income guidelines are listed on the website. There's a banner at the bottom or towards the bottom of the homepage. You can click on, it'll take you to this. So the income guidelines, as I'm sure you guys are aware, change yearly. So here's the guidelines for 2021. And this is a quick, easy way for somebody to come and see if they even qualify, if it makes sense to start the process. And we always tell clients that if they're not sure or they think they're right on the edge, to go ahead and apply, because you just never know how it's going to work out and how it's going to calculate once we enter all the data. So if you're unsure, go ahead and apply. So along with that, once you know if you qualify for LIEAP, there are certain documents that are required. So here's some of the main documents that we need to process the application. So obviously the application, and within that application is a signature page. So that's one that we have clients miss a lot. So everyone over the age of 18 that's in the home, they have to fill out they have to sign and date the application signature page. And that's another one that is digital as well. So we have that along with the online application. So if somebody missed that when they filled out their paper application, they could come to our website and sign it that way and submit it. So again, trying to simplify these things where we can. Income, so everyone in the household have to turn in 3 consecutive pay stubs for everyone that's over the age of 18. And if you're not working, there's various things that you can submit, like a workforce registration from Wyoming Workforce Services, Social Security benefits, stuff like that. So if you guys have questions on income types, I can answer those at the end. We need ID for all the members in the home, which can be a driver's license, can be a passport, can be a birth certificate, health ID card. So there's various forms of IDs that we can use to verify it's the actual client that's applying for LIEAP. Another big one for us, so rental verification. So this is filled out, well, it can be filled out by, the top part is filled out by the client, and then the landlord fills out the rest, which tells us about their utilities, what their main utility is, because LIEAP pays for the primary heat source of the home. And it tells us about if there's Section 8, if we need a utility allowance document, that's all on there as well. So that's another really big one. So a lot of times clients will apply and they're either missing an application signature page or rental verification. So we always try to remind folks that, you know, that's a really important one that we need if you're renting. And then obviously the utility bills. So we had to have both the primary and secondary utility bills. So say it's Black Hills for your natural gas and you have Rocky Mountain Power for your electricity, we would have to have a copy of both of those. And a nice thing for us is if you know your Black Hills or Rocky Mountain Power account numbers, we have access to log in and be able to confirm those. So we have access for Black Hills, Rocky Mountain Power, and Montana, Dakota utilities. So we'd like to get more access to a lot more of them, but those are the three larger providers in the state of Wyoming that have allowed us access to be able to pull those bills if we need to, as long as we know the account number. So if it comes down to that, that's helpful for us. So once you go through this process and the client's approved for LIEAP, there's something we call special situations. So once you're approved, you're eligible for a one-time special situation. And these can be various things, like a utility deposit, a propane tank set. If you own your home, you're eligible for help with a broken furnace, which is a really big one for us, especially at the beginning of the season, because obviously, clients start turning their furnaces on, realize something's not working right, and they can send us a broken furnace request. So another big one is if you have propane for your primary fuel. Once you use your seasonal benefit, or your seasonal benefit's exhausted, you are eligible for one additional propane fill. So the client has to call our office and let us know that they'd like to use their one additional propane fill, and then we notify their propane vendor. So we see a lot of that, in the spring when the season starts to kind of wind down. So that's kind of, high level special situations. There's various things that the program can help with depending on what you need. The other big one is what we call back bills. So if you're behind in payments, you can submit your disconnect notice and we can process it separately from your seasonal benefit and see if you're eligible for assistance with those unpaid invoices. So that's another big one that we see a lot, especially now with COVID. We're seeing, a lot of folks have been laid off and they get behind. So we're working a ton of these back bills currently. And this is what I alluded to, the Weatherization Assistance Program. So when you're applying for LIEAP, you're also applying for the Weatherization Assistance Program. And what happens, they have a priority point system as well. So it's the same priority as the LIEAP program as a whole. So elderly, disabled, and folks with children 5 and under. So what they do is the broken furnace is a priority also. So weatherization handles the broken furnaces. So starting there, if somebody calls and has a broken furnace, we put in the request, we approve the request, and that goes directly to the weatherization office. So they'll call that client and sometimes they'll send out contractors to look at their broken furnace. So that's their highest priority because LIEAP has to work those within 18 business hours once we have received that request. So broken furnace is huge. And then from there, the priority point system, they go through and select the accounts that fall within those priorities. And they start going out and weatherizing homes. So they'll do an energy audit of the home and figure out, where the leaks are essentially in the home. and try to get that fixed. So that's they do a lot. The weatherization assistance program. They're all over the state. They have offices. So they also work with the Council of Community Services to weatherize homes across the state. So that's another part of the LIEAP program. And I know, I mean, that was quick. I know it's high level, but I wanted to leave a lot of time for any questions that you guys have. Really anything that you can think of in terms of the program, or broken furnaces, special situations, or how to apply. And then here's my contact info. So again, if you come across ways we can improve or something that you can't find an answer to, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call, and I can look into it. If I don't know the answer to it, then we can go from there. So I'll I guess turn it back over to you, Eric, and let you kind of moderate the questions.
Well, sure. Yeah. I'm just going through the questions here, and this is great stuff. And you can also unmute yourself and chime in if you have something that you didn't write down. That's not a problem at all. Aaron, the first question that came through was, what's the name of that mobile app you were talking about?
Yeah. So let me go over.
Maybe you could link it into the comment section.
Let me get to the website. So I think the best resource is going to be the website. So if I click here, here's the homepage. So it's liapyo.org. And I'll just kind of show you guys what we're looking at here. And here's the video I told you about that sort of explains what LIEAP is and how to apply. If you want to apply online, you can click there and it brings you to the online application. So that'll walk you through the entire application. And then over here is the form links. And this is what I was talking about. If you did not sign your application, you can come over here and you see the application signatures. And there's just a form. So you fill that in and you scroll down, and then you can just use your mouse and sign your name and submit it. But going back, so the Kofax mobile capture is what it's called. So that's up here on the homepage, also in the menu. Click on mobile capture, and we have this graphic that shows you exactly how it works. So this is what it's going to look like. It's called Kofax. So this is a program we use that allows us to push through the applications. That's our digital program. So you download that in either Google or Apple, and then configure the settings, and this will tell you how that works. And then once you're in, you essentially just hover over what you want to scan. It takes a picture, and then you can add additional documents. So this is important because a lot of times clients will scan one page at a time, and it comes in one page at a time. If you just take one picture, you can add all the documents at once and send it all at once. So we prefer that way rather than individual documents. So yeah, Kofax mobile capture.
So you don't want to be inundated with paperwork?
Well, the thing is, we have to go through and we call it validate each page. So you're validating 10 jobs as opposed to one job when they're all together.
Yeah, so for reference, I put in the comment section, I put the link to the LIEAP site. So you can go there and kind of peruse that and figure that out. The income guidelines based on gross or net income, that's gross income, correct?
That's correct. That's a great question.
Yeah.
It is gross income.
So pre-tax income. And then with CSBG, Aaron, we moved from serving the population at, was it 125% of the federal poverty line up to 200%. Did that happen with LIEAP also?
I want to say it's 200.
Okay.
And I can't remember exactly if it changed or not. I have to go back and look at how she calculated them.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe it's 200.
Okay. Now, when a client comes in with IDs, are there any IDs? I'm sorry, any other IDs that are accepted besides a United States ID? So, and I'm going to assume, Anel, that question is about IDs from other countries, or maybe like a student ID or
Yes,
something like that.
like a Mexican ID, if they don't have any or Mexican passport and matrícula consular.
Yes. Yep. As long as it has, their name and we can verify it's them, that is acceptable.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you think that LIEAP is going to utilize all of your funding this year?
That's a good question. I think that we will. I mean, I know that we were close. I don't know the exact numbers from last season, but yeah, I mean, we're right there, really close to utilizing it. And I know there's a certain percentage, I think it's 10%, that the guidelines require you to carry over to the next season. So if not, that's the reason that we don't use all of it.
You got to save some of that for the following year to get the season started. Is that how that works?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So Shauna asks if LIEAP received CARES funds and what policies, if any, changed when that took place.
Yeah, that's a good question. So LIEAP did receive CARES funds. So Wyoming received, I think, just about 2.4 million, Wyoming LIEAP, for the CARES funds. And so we worked through how we were going to allocate those funds, and what we decided throughout the summer is we created a new form, and it was a request form for COVID funding that you could request. And essentially, if you requested COVID funding, we were looking at, we would have you send in unemployment form or something to show that you lost your job at first, is what we were doing. And then there was a guideline. So we have a calculation like we use just for regular LIEAP seasonal benefits that was put in place that we would use. So depending on your income level at the time is how much you would qualify for in COVID relief. So a client could qualify up to $1,000 was the most they could qualify for. I think the lowest number was, I want to say 800. So just in that range, 8 to 1,000. And as we moved on to the summer, we realized there were a lot of individuals that needed help regardless if they lost their job or if their hours were cut. So if they were requesting COVID funding, we would process their application like it was a regular LIEAP season. And if they were approved, we would apply that COVID funding towards that household that applied. So that's what we were doing up until the regular season. So once we got into the regular season, which was October 1st, we're now working applications as though it was a regular season, and then putting in those special situations. So essentially trying to put all of the regular LIEAP seasonal benefits in place. And then if additional funding is needed after that, we still have the COVID relief funds that are available. So that's sort of how that is being handled right now.
And again, anybody, if you have a question as we're going through, feel free to just unmute yourself and pop in. Can you go over again the explanation about non-traditional fuels like wood and pellets and propane and that kind of thing?
Yeah.
They can only be used in October, or is the switch over from October to November when you begin to also do the other one?
Correct. Okay. So that is a little bit tricky how this works. So the way that the program's laid out is if you have unregulated fuel, which would be propane, wood pellets, or coal, the program can start making payments if you're approved for those fuel types in October. So say you had propane as your primary fuel, you were approved in October and you got a propane fill, say October 10th. What happens is your vendor sends the invoice for your propane fill on October 10th to our office, and LIEAP can pay that invoice because unregulated fuels, for whatever reason, begin payments in October. So then once we get to November, that's when the fuels for natural gas and electricity can begin being paid. So if you had a bill for Black Hills and the bill date was November 7th, you're approved the program, LIEAP will begin paying in November, so November bill dates for those regulated fuels. And the way that works, so once you're approved, we work with the state of Wyoming. So the state of Wyoming makes all the payments. And we all use the same program, computer program that we enter the payments in. So once you're approved, our office, well, the state of Wyoming sends a file of everyone that's approved to the vendor, to specific vendors. So we do that every Monday. So if you were approved today, for Black Hills, for instance, Black Hills would get notified that you were approved in a file next Monday. So then they know that they'll be receiving LIEAP benefits. And then once that happens, the state of Wyoming also sends a file every other week to the vendors saying, here's who's approved, here's what we're expecting. The vendor looks through it and they'll send the amount that's due for that month back in a file to the state of Wyoming. And that's what the state of Wyoming uploads into the system to be paid. So the client, once they're approved, doesn't really have to do anything. It's all handled on the back end between the state of Wyoming and the vendors. So that process is pretty nice. The other thing, so that's really mainly the big providers. So Black Hills, Rocky Mountain Power, Powder River Energy, they do the file system because they're so big, it would be tough to do that by hand. So that's why that's all digital. And like propane, some of the smaller vendors. So once you get a propane fill, say they have 5 clients, they'll send all those invoices directly to us and we post those payments into the system to be paid. So there's a little bit of difference in how some of those payments are made.
We have a question about the citizenship of an applicant. So if you have somebody come in, do they have to be a United States citizen or a legalized alien, or does citizenship matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you do have to be a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident to receive assistance. So we see a lot of times that in a household, the children will be U.S. citizens, the adults may not be. So the program pays to heat the home for those U.S. citizens. So generally what we do is make in our program, we have to have a head of household in the program. It requires that. So we'll make one of the children, the oldest children, the head of household, and the adults is what we call responsible adults. So they'll still be in the household, and we'll mail information to the responsible adult. But that's sort of how we handle that. So then we process it with the information from the household. So the IDs and all that stuff we still have to have. But yeah, so then it just essentially makes a calculation based on the U.S. citizens in the household.
Okay. And then we got one from Dawn here saying a lot of people come in and say that they applied for LIEAP but haven't heard anything yet. They call to check on the application, told it's first come, first serve. Mm-hmm. Can you kind of walk through that?
Yeah, so this season, there's probably a lot of that, unfortunately, just because, like I said, we were trying to make system updates at the very end. I mean, we were cutting it so close, and we were just back up again in time for the season to officially start. So we had the system down for about a month, unfortunately. So obviously those applications are stacking up while it's down, and we're unable to work on them at all. So once we get back up, we have, 3,000 applications sitting there waiting for us. But the way that happens is if you email an application in, it automatically flows into our digital system. And then when we work them from the top, which just puts them in order from the order they were received. So that's why we say that. And then it goes back to the waterfall. So there's certain steps it goes through. You apply, we have to send it to the right place. If you have a special situation, like a broken furnace or about to be turned off or something like that, we have 2 different trails. So special situations are expedited. They go down a certain trail and we work those first. And then non-special situations are a separate trail. So once they get through those trails, they go to a process queue, and then somebody is actually physically looking at those and making the determination. So they're filling in, do we have all the documents? Do we have the signature page? Do we have IDs for everyone? And then they go through and enter all that into the system. So you can imagine, I mean, it takes time to go back and forth between the systems and figure out what we need and append it or deny it or approve it. And while we're doing that, we're answering phone calls. So right now, I think we have 14 temporary workers that are doing all this as we speak, just nonstop. So that's a lot of times when we get calls, we're telling folks, we're doing as quick as we can. They're processing orders, we receive them. And then if you have a special situation when you call, we try to take that into consideration, and depending on what the situation is, expedite those. But that's sort of why clients get a lot of those questions, our answers from our call center. Unfortunately, we're working fast. I can assure you that.
And I can vouch for that. Actually, they work pretty much nonstop. Those guys are slammed.
We're working OT right now too. So hopefully we'll get a lot of those clients' questions answered and approved or whatever we need to do. But right now we're working 7 to 6. So it's been long days, but we're making progress.
Yeah. Anybody else have any other questions for Aaron out there? We've gone through all the questions in our chat boxes, but has anybody thought of anything other questions that they want to see if Aaron has information for them on? Okay. Well, Aaron, we'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much for carving out time. We know how slammed you are. I know how slammed you are. So this guy doesn't ever get up from his desk during the course of the day. Like, he busts his butt all the time. He's slammed. So he does a lot of hard work for people that'll never see his face. And so I'm grateful for him.
Well, I appreciate it, Eric. Thanks. And again, if you guys have questions or suggestions for improvements, please feel free to email me or just comments or whatever. I appreciate all that stuff. So, and we look at it all. So thanks for having me, and I'll let you guys get back to it and take care.
All right. Hey, thanks. Appreciate that, Aaron. And for the rest of us, just there's really nothing else on our agenda for today. But feel free to email Aaron. He left his contact information on that PowerPoint. And if you don't have his contact information, I can tell you what, Aaron, why don't we put that in the chat box?
Yeah.
Before you jump off. So that way, if anybody has need for more information, you need to get a hold of Aaron or somebody at LIEAP, he can do that. And if you're on hold, you'll hear my voice. So, and then also, just so you know, in a couple weeks, we'll have our networking meeting. These meetings are part of the state contract funded by the state CSBG allotment. So they're free to all of our grantees and sub-grantees. So just make sure that you spread the word throughout the network and let folks know that we have these things going on. If you can't get logged in or are having an issue, remember that in the calendar invite I sent out for our networking meetings and for our trainings here, the links for those specific Zoom meetings are in there. So in the notes portion of of that calendar invite. So if you accepted that calendar invite onto your calendar, the links and information for that are in that calendar invite. And it's a recurring calendar invite. It's not specific to one specific meeting. It is for those meetings going forward. So just for your ease, if you're ever wondering where the link is, that's the first place I put it. But if you can't get to it, or your computer glitches and you don't have it saved, no problem. Just shoot me an email and I'll make sure you get it. This, like I said, is recorded, and we will be posting it to our YouTube page once it renders and stuff. So if you want to share that, it'll be up in the next couple of days. Does anybody have anything that they need for the network? Any questions or assistance? Well, great. All right. Well, I hope you guys all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.